He is risen. Happy Easter, fellow conservatives for McClendon Chisholm. It is great to be with you on this Easter Sunday. What a wonderful thing to know is the faith, is the hope that is found in Christ Jesus. For those who know him, this is the day of true salvation, that through Christ we have been made whole, we've been made perfect, and we are able to call ourselves children of God and stand at the gate of heaven. And hold on one second, I'm going to have to pause real quick. I had an external mic on, and I knew that would cause a lot of problems. So I apologize for that. But it is good to be with you. Sometimes technical difficulties happen, and there's not a whole lot we can do about that. But it is great to be with you. Happy Easter. This is a wonderful, wonderful day. Today is also a day that I'm dedicating specifically to those of you who are veterans and patriots. And the reason why is because I'm going to read a letter to you, and that's what this show is going to be, a letter written by the couple who have contributed the money to give the monument that sits at City Hall that was supposed to be read on Tuesday night at City Council meeting by a veteran to address the mayor and City Council. And of course, the council meeting has been unceremoniously canceled by the mayor and wants to wait until after the election is over. We've already talked about that and what how interesting the timing is. And when I was mayor, obviously, like many other council meetings, when you can't use City Hall, you go to the Chisholm Baptist Church, which is typically very open to letting us use it. And it's where we used to have city council meetings. But the mayor decided that this is not appropriate, that we can't have a council meeting. And I think one of the biggest reasons is because of what was going to be read on Tuesday night, and that this letter was going to be read. And so I've been given this to read to you. The couple is well known to me, and I'm going to just read this letter, and that will pretty much be the sum total of today's show. Just a background. Well, I'm not even going to give a background. I'm just going to read the letter, and that will be the show. So this is dated April 19, 2019. Dear Mayor and Council, my wife and I had the privilege of funding the monument located on McClendon Chisholm City Hall property that honors all who served our United States military, which was dedicated on last Memorial Day through a gift that we made specifically for this purpose to the Rockwall chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, known by most simply as the DAR. The DAR is an organization made up of patriots who never served, whose mission it is to ensure that we never forget that freedom is not free. It is bought and paid for by young men and women, all of whom gave some, and some gave all. We are so proud to live in a city that has so many who served their country honorably. We especially wish to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, Mr. Mayor, as well as council members Herron, Larkin, and Bloom for having served. Your sacrifice is worthy of our respect. As a way of introduction, I feel that it is important for you to understand the motivation behind my deep conviction to honor all who served. So please bear with me. Sorry. I grew up in a family where service to our country was highly esteemed. My grandfather volunteered and served honorably both in World War I and World War II, and both my father and uncle volunteered and served honorably in the Korean War. All were, as they liked to say, regular Army. However, while I understand why the term is used, growing up I never thought that there was anything ordinary about the United States Army, and I'm sure that all who hear these words would agree. I also grew up in a rather unique Christ-centered church in Houston called Baraka. Our pastor, R.B. Thiem, a former Army colonel who served in World War II, was affectionately called the Colonel by the congregation. His son Bobby, who now holds the pulpit following his father's promotion into glory, was an Army Ranger, which I think was the driving force behind the massive Ranger insignia which graced the outside balcony of the Student Center when I was growing up. When you walk through Baraka's corridors, you will not see images that are typically found on most church walls, like a lamb sitting by still waters or the Last Supper. Instead, the hallways are filled with works of art that features military combat, such as World War I aerial dogfights, Civil War-era battles, Sherman tanks firing upon the Germans in World War II, just to name a few. In fact, the first time I saw the movie Patton, starring George C. Scott, was when I was still in elementary school on a Friday night in the main sanctuary after church, which was a movie that I saw countless times along with many of my friends. That my father, grandfather, and uncle served honorably in times of war was and continues to be an incredible source of pride for me. Because of their sacrifice and the sacrifices made by those like them, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a time of peace. By that time, the Vietnam War had ended, and though military service was to me obligatory, my father, grandfather, pastor, and pastor's son sat me down and together urged me to instead focus my energies on college and not the military. My father emphasized that he had fought so that I didn't have to, a sentiment echoed by them all. My pastor noted the fact that patriotism is not determined by military service. In fact, millions of patriots who never donned a uniform were integral to winning every war our nation has ever fought. He went on to highlight members in our church who had never served in the U.S. military, but whose lives demonstrated them to be true patriots. This included both the Gold Star moms and dads, along with those whose sons came home alive, the brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, all who gave some, and some who gave all. They also instilled in me the truth that a veteran does not a lifelong patriot make, citing examples like Lee Harvey Oswald, President Kennedy's assassin, and Charles Whitman, the sniper that perched himself atop the University Tower in Austin, murdering 17 and injuring another 30. While both of these men may have served honorably in the U.S. military, they noted how neither of their lives exemplify the high standards of what it means to be a patriot. Quote, like our faith, Colonel Thiem told me, patriotism is not an adjective defined by a single act, but a verb that is reflected in our daily disciplines. Together, these great men urged me to be a patriot in ways that did not require military service. Having taken the advice not to enlist, however, has never diminished the sense of debt I will forever feel toward those who have. This is why, when my wife and I were offered the opportunity to fund a monument to honor all who served, we jumped at it as a token of that debt of gratitude. Of course, a token is something very small that represents something very big. As you all know, instead of our name being inscribed on the backside of the monument, it is the DARs, a group that was founded and carried forth by patriots like us who have never served, but who carry on a tradition of honoring all who have. Both my wife and I prefer that this wonderful organization be afforded the recognition of having given this monument so that we can remain anonymous. We also did not attend the dedication so as not to distract from where we hoped the focus should remain on the DAR's commitment to honor all who served. As principal conservatives, my wife and I hold the belief that monuments like this should be funded through voluntary contributions and not involuntarily by government that uses taxpayer funds. In light of our conviction that funding of public monuments come from voluntary contributions, as we worked with the co-chairs of this effort, Mindy Lovell of the DAR and Mayor Robert Steinhagen, on the selection of the location, along with the many other details about the monument, our concern about how the monument would be maintained was addressed. On top of our contribution that paid for the monument, we gave another gift of $2,800, which was to pay the added cost of installation. But thanks to Mindy's hard work, our initial contribution covered that cost too. So the DAR returned that contribution to us. We had considered offering to invest those funds toward the long-term maintenance of the monument when the idea of a brick campaign was formed as a way to raise funds for this purpose by inviting the community to participate. We didn't want to rob people of the joy of giving to something bigger than themselves, especially in a community like McClendon Chisholm. The brick campaign's sole purpose was on raising funds, not honor individual veterans, since the monument already honors all who served. This was why we chose the company with decades of experience raising funds through bricks that were created to be engraved and stand the test of time. With their guidance, we recognized that each brick must be priced in such a way to build up enough of a reserve to accommodate the long-term maintenance of the monument site. This was why we set the per brick cost at $150, so that after the $20 per brick cost, 100% of which went to the brick company without any kickbacks to anyone, the city would collect $130 to be put in reserve and accounted for in a separate line item that the city accountant set up. Our goal was to see at least 100 bricks sold before laying down the first set, which would pay for the site's preparation and setting the bricks, which we estimated could be as much as $8,000, and ensure that at least $5,000 would be set aside for the long-term maintenance. We also agreed with Chair Mindy Lovell's recommendation that all brick be uniformly the same size and color, consistent with the standards we see in national cemeteries. As part of this planning, Councilmember Adrian Balkum volunteered to help us promote this brick campaign. It was exciting to imagine how this effort could help bring our community together for something that we had thought most citizens could get behind, and where groups divided by politics could lay aside their differences and work together as patriots all. By allowing the brick to be personalized, it provides a unique incentive for those in our community to give to either honor someone they knew who had served, or to demonstrate their own or their family's commitment to honoring all who served. A great example of this is the brick purchased by the daughter of our current mayor, Keith Short, to honor her father. I have little doubt that the opportunity to honor her father had as much to do with her deep and abiding love for her dad as the pride she feels in knowing that her father served his country honorably. Despite the fact that it is her father's name that will be inscribed on the brick, her contribution is helping to fund the long-term maintenance of a monument that honors all who served, which I'll bet is something that her father would support too. Mayor Short's daughter exemplifies what this brick campaign was intended to do: allow patriots like her, who has never served in the military, to honor patriots like her father, who have. My wife and I have purchased 3 bricks, which will honor my grandfather, father, and uncle for the very same reasons. When sharing about the brick campaign with a veteran of Afghanistan a few weeks back, he shared with my wife and me his desire to donate a brick to honor his mom, whose sacrifice for our country, he says, outmatched his own because of how, every day, she prayed for he and the men in his company to come back safely, and remarkably, all of them did. I'll bet there's more than one veteran out there who would prefer to see their wife and children's name on a brick instead of their own, because of what they sacrificed for their country and being at home all alone during those long tours of duty, which takes an altogether different toll and is a different kind of valor that will never be recognized through medals. There may also be those in our community who may not have direct ties to someone in the military, but who still desire the opportunity to honor all who served by helping fund the monument's long-term maintenance, by putting their or their family's name on a brick as another token of their gratitude and sign of true patriotism. As Colonel Thiem put it, patriotism is not an adjective defined by a single act, but a verb that is reflected in the honor one demonstrates to their country every day. What a great way to bring our community together. However, without any notification to us, we learned that the brick campaign has recently been hijacked by some of the very people that we had put so much effort into honoring: veterans. Despite the many hours of work to promote this campaign, it is our understanding Councilmember Balkum has been removed from her volunteer leadership in this effort, specifically because she is not a veteran, and replaced with council member Larkin, who is. We also understand that many of the very same people, all of them veterans, who have engaged so enthusiastically in this effort now that Mr. Larkin is in charge, had done nothing to help Councilmember Balcom, despite her many requests to them for their help. When she began to promote this effort, she was in charge of the communications for the city, which we understand has also been revoked. The work she did to help promote this began strong, but as her ability to communicate in our community was systematically stripped from her, the effectiveness of the BRIC campaign diminished too. It is also our understanding that the purpose of the BRIC campaign as a fundraiser to help support the long-term maintenance of the monument is being eliminated, so that veterans can honor themselves at a cost per brick charge of $20. For my wife and me, this begs a few questions. The first is, how then will the long-term maintenance of this monument be funded? By the force of government through taxation? If there is any expectation that the taxpayers of McClendon Chisholm involuntarily foot the bill for this monument's long-term maintenance, then we have turned a corner from freedom that so many fought to protect to tyranny that so many, through apathy and indifference, have surrendered to. If this is the case, then the council has failed to recognize how they will be robbing their fellow citizen patriots of the opportunity to give freely and engage generously to a noble and worthy cause, honoring all who have served, to instead forcefully take money that is not their own to fund a project that citizens have no say in. The second obvious question would be the new intended purpose of the BRIC campaign. The monument's sole purpose is to honor all who served. The BRICs were to provide opportunities for citizens to amplify that honor by helping to ensure that the monument will last long after all of us are gone. We understand that Councilmember Larkin's committee is mostly comprised of veterans, but all are campaigning to unseat Councilmember Balcom and Mayor Pro Tem Scott Turnbull. We also understand that this committee had been meeting for weeks without notice to citizens like us who remain in the dark because apparently our contributions as patriots have been cast aside for political gamesmanship. Most unsettling of all are the comments made by some veterans who, though they played no role in it, are now taking credit for this monument being placed at City Hall. These same people are propagating misinformation to veterans that the BRIC campaign was intended to lock out voters on fixed income by pricing the bricks at a cost that will prevent most from being honored. They have polluted the effort to honor all who served by preying on the emotion of veterans through half-truths to inflame a false notion and stir up strife against those of us who have acted in a manner that was wholly pure. My wife and I are disgusted by how much identity politics has crept into the public discourse nationally as a way to dismiss and prevent contrasting opinions from being expressed, as the messengers are derided as illegitimate. We now live in a nation where one's identity has suddenly become more important than their argument or contributions to society. Identity politics is a tool used by the left as a way to cobble together certain groups of people to make them feel victimized, like blacks, Hispanics, gays, lesbians, transgenders, all of whom are angered by the way American politics is going. By creating this sense of victimhood through emotion-laden rhetoric, leftists orchestrate solidarity with these groups so that philosophies, positions, facts, and ideas are repressed by the sense of allegiance among its members. So it is unimaginable that local veterans would actually work to cast aside and dishonor anyone who has taken an active role to honor our military, while at the same time slammed the door shut on those who do not meet a certain political persuasion, all through a nauseatingly un-American game of identity politics for veterans only. If it is true that the BRIC campaign is a fundraiser to support the long-term maintenance of the monument has been abandoned so that veterans can honor themselves on the cheap, then let's just call the new direction what it really is, an act of pure narcissism by veterans for veterans. If true, then the actions of Mr. Larkin's committee have certainly proven that a veteran does not a lifelong patriot make. If true, then I know that my father and grandfather and uncle would be embarrassed to have their names placed alongside those whose actions would reflect such a disgusting display of self-aggrandizement. I would then request that the bricks that were to honor these great men be refunded to us so that we can find an opportunity where honor is still sacred and not stolen. It's one thing to play politics with our public safety to win an election, but to now play politics through bastardized patriotism is an even greater new low that I never imagined possible. We urge you, the representatives of the people, not to continue playing politics with something as sacred as this and restore the original purpose of the brick campaign, which was to raise funds for the long-term maintenance of the monument. For her efforts, Mrs. Balcom has proven that she is a true patriot, whose efforts should be respected, not further marginalized, castigated, or ridiculed by the council or any veterans within our community. Thank you for your consideration regarding this issue. May God bless you and the council. Signed, the financial donors of the McLennan Chisholm Memorial, dedicated to all who served. My fellow patriots, I would ask that you take a stand against what is happening in our community. Urge the city council to return the original purpose of this brick campaign to what it should be. Reinstate volunteers like Adrienne Balcom, who can lead others who have not served, so that we can honor those of you who have. Thank you for watching. I wish you the very best and a most happy Easter. And I wish you all the best. For those of you who have served our country, thank you. We know that our freedom is not free. Happy Easter. We'll see you tomorrow.